One of the prayers by the Azimio team, of course, is IBC be ordered to tally and verify the count and declare Raila Karua president-elect and deputy president-elect. As an alternative of declaring Raila president-elect, the court should find IBC incapable of presiding over and rendering a proper presidential election. I mean, Prof, when you look at, of course, we still look at the timeline because this is quite crucial, 14 days. And does the Supreme Court have the capacity in its, from where it sits to be able to sort of do a recount or a retally of the votes across, 46,229 polling stations?
I think the way Azimio has put the case, and I think everyone would likely do that, is to ask for everything, reasonable and unreasonable, backed up and not, and so on. I think they've decided to actually ask for absolutely everything. So it will be up to the court to determine
whether it can,
yes, what prayers will be answered and what prayers would not be answered. If it's an issue of retallying, it will be up to the court to decide whether that prayer is answered and then how that will be done. Yeah, because maybe they may not need to actually retally the whole process, and then of course even how that actually gets done, because I mean it'll be quite interesting that if the courts, for example, find Chebukati unfit to hold public office, and that becomes part of the outcome, then of course it actually means that IBC will have to be, in a way, reorganize itself, to actually do this particular task under the supervision of the court. Yeah, so I think from the Azimio side, from the petitioner's side, what they've done is to put everything that all the evidence that they have, and then put all the prayers, that they want up front. And then, of course, it will be up to the courts to determine which of those prayers are reasonable, which ones are within the law, and so on, which ones can be granted. And then, of course, also, how they can actually be granted. I think that would be up to the courts to determine.
Right. Before we took a break, there was that issue of, the IBC chairperson, Wafula Chebukati, and, his character has been put at the fore of this petition. Right. Why is this, crucial?
I think this is very important because, and is like, like they say, this is one of the, the backbones of this particular case, that, IBC, as was constituted, the character of individual commissioners, particularly the character of the chair, was such that they could not actually deliver on free, fair, accurate, all those, provisions for the electoral system, and this is why is actually quite critical. And then, of course, we also highlighted how IBC is meant to work based on previous court rulings and the provisions of law. That number one, can Chebukati act unilaterally? So I think the division of the IBC gives quite a lot of credence to the Azimio case. In the first instance, whether IBC, as was constituted and as they were acting, could actually be relied on, to meet those particular thresholds of the electoral system. And then secondly, in this particular situation where IBC itself is totally split, whether again they could actually be relied on to be an independent arbitrator in this particular instance. So the character of the chair of the commission, the way he conducted this particular election, particularly the tallying the later days of this, the relationship with the various commissioners, and the architecture of the commission and how it was intended to operate is definitely, and they've already said that in Azimio, that's definitely going to be one of the backbones of the Azimio case.
Right. Jim, I also want to get your thoughts on the same. When you look at Chebukati, and of course when you're looking at the petition, why is this important?
It's important because we'll be asking the decisions that are being made by the IBC. And it goes all the way back to, as we said earlier, the printing of ballot papers and other election materials, the forms. What these decisions made by the commission or by the chair. Because if we have commissioners who've come out, and that particular presser that was done just before the declaration is important, because it's bringing into question whether the chair was acting unilaterally, outside of the bounds of the Constitution and outside of, was he compliant with the law? So it would be an issue of compliance with the law. Because if he was not compliant with the law, then ultimately the outcome of this election was determined by one individual, which is not what is envisioned by our Constitution. Yeah.
Looking back at, I think, one of the biggest issues in the 2017 election, and you know, the court had ordered IEBC to quote-unquote open the servers, and that has been quite a big issue. And in the prayers by Raila Odinga at the Supreme Court, is asking the court to compel IEBC to, you know, open the servers so that they'll be able to sort of look and just do their own tally as well and look at the logs in terms of the numbers. Do you think we were able to cure the issues that were raised in the 2017 petition, you know, the irregularities and illegalities that were cited back then?
The servers question was one of the reasons why in 2017, because the IEBC refused to open the servers in 2017, and then it left the court wondering, what are you hiding within those servers? So this time around, what the IEBC did is said, okay, we will make all results from the polling station public to all individuals. You can go to the portal and you'll find all Form 34As. But remember that this is technology, and technology is always prone to hacking. It is prone to interference. So how watertight, how secure was the IT system at IEBC from external interference? Because that is the case that Azimio is arguing, that there was external interference with their servers. And they are asking the court that within the next 48 hours, IEBC should grant them access to all of their IT equipment so that they can do their own forensic audit.
Including the KIMS kits as well.
Including the KIMS kit, because they're saying 2 days after elections, there are about 425 KIMS kits that were still in use. That were still relaying data 2 days after the close of the election. And remember, KIMS kits, it was to end on the day of the election. So these are all questions that they're raising, which are weighty, because that is part of the verification process.
Then you have the Venezuelans as well.
You have the Venezuelans, and that again, they are calling the DCI to come and explain to the court what they found in the Venezuelans. You have a laptop that was found, which they claim in the petition had access to the IEBC portal. They have another, and I said it's reading the petition, it's quite interesting that apparently there was an individual who spoke to hackers. And these hackers told him, there's a Gidongo who's going to testify, how hackers told him that they were hired by Wani Itumbi and how they hacked the system. So, I mean, it sounds comical, but at the heart of it, we are not saying technology is prone to external interference. And it will be, Azimio have to prove that there was external
then the burden of proof, you know, falls on the shoulders of Azimio, which
they have to prove.
Quite a,
and the only way they can prove is if they have access to the IEBC portal and the servers, and if IEBC will actually grant them that access. Because initially, they were to have access. I know that agents, chief agents, were to have certain levels of access to that particular portal. So it will be interesting whether they had access. It will be interesting, for instance, to determine why did we have these 425 KIMS kits still relaying information 48 hours after we had actually closed polls.